Okay, so I'm not a sitter, so I'm a walker. So you'll see me walking around because I do not like to sit. I like to be with you. So like they say, my friend Julie has said, I'm Bina Parmar. So I'll just give a little context of myself, why I've become passionate about diversity, inclusion, and equity. So originally, as you see me physically, what would you think I am? What would you say? Who I am? Indian was the first word, isn't it? Okay, so Indian was the first word, and that's what people would recognize me for. But actually, I was born in Kenya. I was raised in an African culture. I have an African background and African heritage with an Indian background. I moved to UK, so I had to learn UK culture, UK traditions, and then I got married to a Swedish. So the diversity just overflowed there. It just went from one to completely a different context. So it threw me thinking, whoa, how many more do I have to learn? So it was really good though. So this is where my passion came, that I'm learning so much from so many people, but why is everyone seeing me differently? I am the same person. I am still Bina. I am still who I am, but why are they seeing me differently? So I decided this is going to be my change action, okay? So today I'm going to talk to you about understanding the social and psychological dimensions of inclusion for children with SEND. And this is because I work within the field of social care. So I manage a team of social workers and early years practitioners who work in early intervention. The main key point of anything early intervention, which has come across all what we've talked about. The earlier you start, the better the results. It doesn't mean that it'll stop, but you will get better results. And I'm talking about for the children and for their families. Okay, so just a quick overview of the session. I'm going to give you a little introduction to the practice and the research that I do. And then I'm going to give you some findings around it. And these findings are a little narrower because I have only 30 minutes. I have loads of other findings that I'd love to share, but I'm doing just the key areas. What is the impact because of this? You know, what is it that influences those behaviors to parents and children with SEND in our society? And then looking at that evidence, and then looking at possible ways forward. And from this, I hope I can give you some possible ideas to think about what you are doing as a person, as an individual, to create those changes. Okay, so over the session, please, if you have any questions, please note them down because I'd like to hear them. Or if you have any points and you want to add on, I want to hear them. So please, I'd love any input, just to say. Feedback, that's where I'm coming. So any feedback, points, questions, please write them down. I want to hear. And then I'll give you a conclusion from the team, because something I asked the team, how are we going to take this forward? I don't want us to stop here. I want us to make it better, because learning is a journey. Okay, learning is lifelong. You don't stop. Okay, so we want to continue, make it better. And like I said, any questions? There is a question, but if we only have time, I've been strictly told by Sujata, no. Okay, so, but do keep them, okay? So a quick introduction. I did a case study based in our team, which is the Children's Disability Team. And this is in Coventry. And it was to understand what is the extent of intervention are we providing? You know, what are those reasons that families and children say, I need help? What is that help? Okay, and I'm going to talk to you about how we provide that help, but what is the framework? Okay, so the Children's Disability Team works with children not to 18. Okay, we have children coming up with disabilities from cerebral palsy to degenerative conditions to Down syndrome to conditions that are so rare that we have to do a Google reading, an encyclopedia, to just make sure we understand what we are saying. Okay, so we have loads of children who come through this, and they're based on non to 18. I deal with the early years team, and then I work with transitioning them through to adult services as well. Okay, so making sure that transition is smooth as possible. We don't want any jumps or anything else. We work across multi-agency. Now, this is my core element, multi-agency. Now, we talked about culture. There's a theme that has come around, the word culture. And I find and struggle this culture of multi-agency working where everyone works individually in the way they see that child, see that family as such. So working across these services helps me to understand how are they seeing this child or how are they seeing this family. Okay, what is it that is making them feel the way they are? Okay, so I work across health. So this is health in sense of pediatricians, consultants, OT, physio, sensory support, so visionary team we have play therapists we have as well. You can say, across everything, anything that the child needs. It could be from private education to going across other boundaries or other countries as well. We kind of collaborate with them. Education, so we have special educational schools and we have mainstream schools as well. So we do that transition and work with them as well, that make sure that this child is inclusive and is accessing the whole environment, not just the classroom, the whole environment of that setting, including going outside, doing exactly what the other typically developing children are doing. That's the word I would say, typically developing children. Housing has been a big thing within Coventry, or I would say in the UK. We have such high housing needs that we have children who are not in proper housing. So what we do as a service, we make sure it's adapted to meet the needs of the child. If they need a downstairs toilet or downstairs room, it's adapted. There's no steps. Okay, they need to go outside, it's adapted. So we work with that housing team to make sure it's fully accessible for the children. And then we work with the community, legal and private. So there is a huge range of services that we are working with, but making sure that our work is meeting the needs of the child or the family. Okay? And what we do, we use this assessment framework. So here you can see the assessment framework. And I think it's a little lighter. So there's level 1, 2, 3, and 4. In that, we call this a windscreen model. So imagine the car windscreen. Yeah? So this is like the windscreen model. Level 1 and 2 is early help, where it's universal services. So universal services, your general GP, dentist, midwife, chemist. Those are your universal services that you access. And then when it goes to 3 and 4, that's where we come in. We do an assessment and we say, okay, what are those needs? And that is where things like, okay, there's possibly some kind of housing concern, there's some domestic violence coming in, or there is something more acute, such as child abuse. Okay, so we work with that and try to assess where that is. So the practitioners that we are working with are working alongside us on that assessment framework. And that includes all those people. So social care, education, we all work in that one plan. We want to meet them together and work with one plan with that one child, not 20 plans. Okay? So, as I did this, so what I did a day where we did a connect and reflect. I asked the whole team, come together and let's reflect on our practice. What is it that is impacting parents or families to access our services? And what is it that the referrals are coming so many? What are those reasons? So I generated a lot of information. So keywords, loads of questions and things. And I generated into 2 themes: culture and parental understanding and acceptance. I think you can kind of relate to this already throughout the conference. Culture and parental understanding and acceptance. So I'll go first talk about parental understanding. About daily life, okay? The social norms. Having a child with disability means you have to think twice. You have to take certain things with you. And then that is going to impact on how you're seen within society. And one family I went to, the first thing she said to me, when she had the baby and I went to visit her, and she goes, what is the society going to think? That threw me. I'm thinking, why are you worried about the society? It's your child, but it did go into her head, what is society going to think? So I think social norms has a big impact on parental understanding and moving life forward. Okay, so this is what the social workers say. This is things that was coming out as a theme. And then transitions. Every little transition from the house to get outside the house to get into the car was a transition, because a child with a disability, for example, who has a degenerative condition or has cerebral palsy, or even maybe on a trachea, has an NG tube, so nasogastric tube, you have to take their feeding, you have to take their equipment. Okay, all that is a transition to get out of the house. So what's the likelihood that the parent's gonna do? Not go. Stay at home, isn't it? Yeah, stay at home, not go out. So that transition impacted on them getting worse in their mental health situation. Okay, and mental health was across everything that the themes there. The environment wasn't adapted. Okay, so there was some inconsistencies with the environment. Wherever they went, they couldn't go. I had one family who told me, I need to attend a wedding, but I can't take him. I'm like, why can't you take him? Oh, it's in this. And I said, well, why can't we work on this? Or why can't you tell your family member this? But there were barriers from the other side. So hence, that was hard for her. So the environment to go to that made her feel so anxious. Family stresses. I say this, poverty, housing, there could be those elements that are impacting them. So family stresses that were having that impact. There's the intrinsic and extrinsic satisfaction. Okay, how satisfied are you intrinsically and extrinsically? And then there is the grief process. Now, the grief process is not linear. Okay, grief goes up and down. There are moments in the life that the parents were feeling that the grief is going up and down. And there was an element of guilt, resentment, and very much, especially, and I can relate to some, and if you can relate to me, there was an element of grief from parents, mainly mothers. Is it my fault? Did I do this? You know, and I'm like, no, it takes two to tango. Okay, it takes two to tango. Please, let's work through this together and involving fathers into this role as well. Okay, so there was that guilt, a lot of guilt and resentment. And then there was the culture. So as you can see, values and beliefs. So my values are different, and I think we talked about it. I have values and beliefs that have been from the time I've been raised. They have different values and beliefs. You need to understand their values and beliefs. Where are they standing with their values and beliefs? And then there was the gender roles. What a mother's role has traditionally informed them to be, and what a man's role has been traditionally been formed to see. So each family was different though. Okay, so I'm not generalizing this. Please be mindful. We do not generalize that, oh, because I went to this family, it's going to be the same situation with that family. No. You learn from each family individually. You try and understand. So the gender roles were different, and that influenced on how that support was for that child, for the child with the disability. And then practices, what kind of practices they were doing, their own practices within the home, in the extended family, okay? Relationships. Now, this was a core element. There was a lot of pressure from outside families and relationships. Friend circles, okay? Their friend circles, maybe there was less intervention because of that. Therefore, there was isolation. So they were left isolated. You have a child, you can't come out with us, whilst parents who had children, typically developing children, and you had a child who had a disability, that element that my child does not look like the same as that. She can't run, or he can't run, he can't walk, but that child can do. So there was that little resentment there. Okay, so the relationships was kind of breaking. Internally, the relationships were also very harsh between the father and mother as well, okay? So, again, we're not generalizing it. Mostly, mothers had to give up their job. Can we relate to that? We can relate to that, okay? My husband tells me this, I'm like, ooh, he's had it, no, it's an equal society, we have to work together on this. So there was an element who had lovely good jobs and they had to give up, and that made them feel like, that's it, that's my life done. Okay, I went to a family who had very strong values that having a child with disability meant that's the end for her life. Yeah, and we worked really, really hard. So I ensured that he went into a special nursery and into a special school. And I'll tell you the story after it and tell you what the feedback was. But yeah, it takes a lot of strain on the mothers. Communication and language, so key. How you speak is so important. Your tongue is sharper than a sword. Have you heard of that? Yes, because what you say cannot be seen how it's heard. But when you say it, you have to be careful of how you say it. Okay, so language was an important factor. How is the language being told to parents and children had an impact on how then they understood. Okay, and also language barriers. Well, they say language barriers. I don't like the word barriers. We need to make sure that they're enablers. Okay, we all speak different languages, but that shouldn't be a barrier. That should be actually an opportunity for you to learn. Okay, but there was that because people did not have English as a second, or English was a second language, there was an element of ignorance, if I would say. Yeah, an element of ignorance that they did not engage more effectively. And then the cultural norms, whatever was in the family, the cultural norms. So I highlight this talking about the social norms had a big impact. So what is socially happening? And then the cultural norms. Those were two things that kind of highlighted within the practitioners. And I thought, okay, this sounds very similar to what other agencies are talking to me about, and how can we move this forward. So I related to this to theories. So parental acceptance model. There are 6 stages to this. And as you see these stages, family first has the initial awareness. So first having that awareness, I have a child, that understanding that it is fine. Okay, generally we always think, oh, we're gonna have a blue baby or a pink baby. Yeah, but what if it's neither pink or blue, it's in the middle, gray baby? Okay, and that acceptance is hard, but it's accepting it. It's fine. We don't need to fit into that social norm to say it has to be pink or it has to be blue. Okay, but yeah, there is those pressures which I talked to you about before, isn't it? That has an impact. Then there's the strategies to overcome those loss. What strategies can we implement? Every family has strategies. Every family has strengths. It's finding those strengths. How you find it is so important as well. Awareness of loss and the healing process. So how we start now healing that process. How do we start to recoup them and rebuild them? And the most important thing is we need the parents to share their story. You need to understand them. Let them share their story. Okay? From the journey of pre-conception to conception to having the child. Let them share their story. Listen. Okay? Hear them and listen to them. Don't go saying that, oh, I had this, I did this. No, it's not about you. It's about them. Okay? Listen to them. And that will start the healing process. And then there's acceptance. So finally, we come to the point of acceptance. Resolutions and reformulations. So we find some resolutions and reformulate. Let's come together and reformulate. And then transcending loss and growth occurs. So this is where they'll start growing. They'll start thinking, yes, I can do this. I can do this. We can do this. Yeah. So that growth process comes into play. Now, the main thing about this is it's not step by step. The family can go through that stage at any point of life and they can revert back. Okay. So don't feel this is what I told my team, that this is why they come back into the team. Once they have started working with them and then we say, oh, you're doing really well. Now we can come out and you can move on. And then it just happens that 2-3 years later, the family comes back in and they're like, Bina, this family's come back in. I'm like, yeah, I know, don't worry. But they question it. Why? We've done our job. No, you haven't done your job. Your job is ongoing until that child is there. It will be ongoing. And that is the important factor to understand. Your job is never over. Okay? So these are very important to understand alongside the cultural models of disability. Okay? Something I was talking to my team is you need to understand the resources. Already? Okay. So resources, the culture, and the social environment. Okay? These are things that then start working alongside the acceptance model. Yeah? Now, solutions moving forward. A strategy that we have started implementing in the council, and we are working. Now, this is a start and a growth process, and we're still working on it, is working with the parents, and this is called relational practice. Okay? So, relational practice is, if you see, it's not to the parents, so they're not objects that you do it to them. It's not to them, not for them, because if you're doing it for them, they're never going to get empowered. You're just going to do it for them, and that's it. What will happen when they have to do it for themselves? So what you're doing is with them. Okay? If you have to fill a form in, you sit with them and do it with them. If you have to go out to an appointment, do it with them. Don't do it for them. If you need to make an appointment for them, call and do it with them, because that will empower them. And the other thing is this, that we know the problem. We know the problem, but we don't want to focus on the problem. We call it solution focused. Finding the solution. First, let's work on the solution and we will move forward. The problem is going to be there, but it's not about digging a hole and keeping them in there. It's about how we move them out of the hole. Okay? And that is strength-based learning. Okay? So these are strategies that we're talking, and I want to keep on talking with all the agencies, and that includes with health. So some strategies that I'm doing is going into the health services as soon as possible in hospitals. So as children are born, I'm there and we're talking about solutions rather than focusing on the problem. Because the first thing they say, your child has a disability, the problem's been told, and it keeps on reiterating to the family. And that keeps on staying on their mind that they can't move on. And the first thing they'll say, this child needs to go into care. No, we need to work with the child first and the family to help them move forward. And therefore, we need to move the cultural normalization to inclusive normalization. Make it a normal practice for everybody as such. Now, I implemented something over this. I was trying to get everyone to understand working with parents. So I asked OTs, physios, speech and language therapists, education, play therapists to come together and we do a play session. Okay? A play session where it is for families who have similar children and come together to share their views, their thoughts, how their journey has been, because it is, sorry? 2 minutes, okay. And they gave some feedback, and some feedback that I've been gathering to see, is this working in practice and how I can improve it. So some people, as I say, I just couple of them quickly because I really want to show you this video. Even though the worker of English speaking, she is very understanding of the culture. And that is what I wanted. Is it understanding for the culture between everybody and provides a support and advice. She's like a family member. That was amazing to know. Okay. I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, there are so many, but the word kindness kind of came out. You know, kindness is such a small thing, but it can have a massive impact. Okay. And then there was some from professionals as well. I had a child, unfortunately, due to a degenerative condition, passed away, and we had to have a meeting to just make sure that everything is working well. We have supported with counseling and everything. And when we came together, it was so nice to hear that the team that was actually very resilient and not very good with the parents said that you did an excellent job because this family has moved on. And believe it or not, the family that I was talking about previously, the mom met me in a shopping center, which is massive, and I was at one end of the corner and she was at the other end of corner and shouted across, Bina! I'm like, the whole shopping center knows my name now. But she came running and she told me, Bina, I have started my nursing degree. Thank you to you. And I said, no, it's not thank you to me. You saw your strength. You had that strength. You had it in you and you've done it. So it was so nice to know that she had moved her journey and she didn't think that it's the end for her. So those parents' views were really, really important to know, is that making a good impact? So always think about, you have the intention, you have to implement it, which I did, and I'm trying to do it, and keeping an eye on your impact. Those three: intent, implement, impact. Okay? Now, I asked the team to see what is it that you are doing well and how can we keep on doing well. Now, the problem is social care in Coventry, there is a huge turnover. A massive turnover of social workers. People don't feel valued. They just don't see they're doing a good enough job. But I think they do. They're doing a fantastic job, and I want to just keep their momentum going. So I said, we know what the problem is. We'll work on it. As a team, we'll work on it. But how can we move forward? So I asked them, just give me some keywords, 2 keywords between you of why you, or what is it about working with children with disabilities and families you love. Okay, and they generated a poem, and then generated a poem for it. And this now has become our motto, if I would say. So every time they're low, I bring the team together and like, no, let's listen to this. This is what you're doing and why you're here. And I have voice recorded it. If I play it, will it play it? Please. No, it's... Is this sound?
High five of love. In Coventry's heart, where love does bloom, we build relationships, dispelling gloom. Child-centered care, inclusiveness we weave, empowering children, in them we believe. With fun, play and laughter, joy we create, committed and dedicated, we never hesitate. Thoughtful towards the young, in our hearts they stay, making a difference, brightening everyone's day. Getting to know each unique personality, embracing individuality, fostering creativity. Wonderful and inspiring, kind and true, supporting independence in all that we do. Clever and funny, beautiful and bright, happy and mischievous, a pure delight. Every child's uniqueness, a light so bright, finding creative ways to hear their voice, their right. We love supporting, guiding with gentle hand. In Coventry's disability team, together we stand.
So I thought that was powerful. What do you think? I think it's powerful just to listen and the children saying that. And this is what I remind them all the time, that we are together. We'll do it together. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us as a team, and we'll do it together. And that's where my leadership model comes in, that we are a team, we'll work together. And thank you so much. That's me. I have my email there, and I'd love to have your questions, your thoughts. Please, I have a blog page with a comment section, so please engage with me. And I'd love to have, if you would like to participate in my research, or if you have practice knowledge or any parental experience as well, and you'd like to share your journey with me, I'd love to hear from you, okay? I'd love to engage with you, so please connect with me. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bina, for inspirational insight into the research which you've been undertaking. You may have taken away something different from that presentation, but these are 3 takeaways I think I drew from it, and you can correct me if I've probably got it wrong. So firstly, I think you were informing us that the lens through which a person views another reflects the interaction, shapes that interaction. It also informs the individual's response and the perception of themselves. So this is apparent quite clearly in professional parent relationships. These interactions then result in affirming social norms, which often compromise parents' choices, decisions, and the roles within the family, including the gendered expectations. And for me, it was affirming to hear you talk about dual parenting, the role of both mother and father, which I think is sometimes an absent parent role in certain cultures. And some of these gendered expectations then are then reaffirmed through social norms and the cultural norms that you've been picking up. And then I think in terms of the way forward in professional roles, you are identifying that parenthood, whatever the nature of your child's learning need, but with specific relationship to children who have additional needs, that parenthood is a continuous journey, and the professional's response is not that it's the destination, but to keep redirecting, signposting them on the way and the journey which they must take, and that in forming that journey, it's about resources that are there to inform motivation, and your beautiful poem at the end just affirmed that it's find strategies to keep going on that journey. And as we suggested at the end, that Bina has invited you to get in touch with her by email, and I think with timekeeping we are at a point where I think Sujata might be proud of me. We've done it in 30 minutes. Phew. Thank you for your attendance, and I hope you enjoy the evening.